Steve Dangle Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Remember, with the promo code DANGLE, you can get 20% off. Promo code DANGLE. It's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
Yeah, I always got to have free shipping out.
I know.
Come on, man.
Sorry.
Come on.
Ridiculous. I'm in vacation mode.
The Steve Dangle Podcast with your hosts, Steve Dangle, Adam Wilde, and Jesse Blake. Let's go!
Hey, so listen, we got a bit of a show ahead. It's going to be a bit crazy, so we're going to start on some lighter notes and some happier notes. First off, Jesse.
Yes.
That looks like a different background for you.
Yeah, I'm not in my usual studio setup here. That's definitely true. Yes.
Steve, do you know where Jesse is?
Video.
Jesse is in a hotel in a small town.
Oh,
Because that is the wall of every hotel in a small town.
Where do you think he is actually? Like, give me a location.
A location. Collingwood. I'm going to say Collingwood.
Oh, nice little...
Yeah.
Go ahead. Weekend trip to Collingwood?
you can't really see that sign. No.
The pool... Are you in Vegas?
Did he read it? Did he see it? What does it say?
This pool at Paris, Las Vegas is closed for this. Are you seriously in Las Vegas right now?
I'm in Vegas, baby.
You were... I did not know that. That's hilarious.
We thought we'd surprise you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Jesse found out that I was on vacation. He's like, well, I got some points and I'll go to Vegas.
Yeah. Fly down for the weekend. It'll be a good time. You know, I'm in the basement where the pool is. Actually, it's like the third floor. It's not the basement, but like this is the only area I could find that doesn't have blaring music. And it's 8:30 a.m. right now, and this is the closed pool is the quietest place in the entire city.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you are.
Okay. I always love this with Vegas because flying anywhere in Canada, it's like $1,500 in the middle of the winter. How much was it to go to Vegas?
It was a lot of points. It did not cost me much money.
That's oh my god! I can't believe you're in Vegas on like a whim. That's hilarious. I thought I was like, Jesse is in a small town enjoying the snow.
No,
it's also surprisingly cold. Like I didn't know how cold the desert is. Like especially at night, it gets down to like 3-4 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I went to Arizona, same thing. It's like, it's 18 to 20 during the day, and then it is 4 degrees at night, and you're like, holy smokes, how do I dress for this?
Yeah, I didn't bring enough clothes, for the temperature swings.
I guess you'll have to go shopping.
That sucks.
Go to Vegas for winter jackets. I always say.
Yeah. So before we get started on the obvious story, which is the Ukrainian-Russian situation, we did want to kind of point you in the direction of, and Jesse, I'm not sure if you want to do this now or if you want to insert this later, the Knoxy Kax show with Cassie Campbell-Pascal. It's pretty spectacular, but I think the clip that was making the rounds yesterday was the fact that when the IIHF canceled the women's under-18 tournament, Cassie Campbell-Pascal called them, phoned up the president. You
can hear that clip right now.
For me, it's never been like, let me put out a tweet. That'll solve everything. Oh, this is going to be great. Boy, I'm going to use my platform. My platform is when the under-18 World Championships is canceled, I call the president of the IHF. That's what I do. And I say, do you believe in women's hockey? And
so, just Luke Tardif just on your phone. No big deal.
God, she doesn't take shit.
It was such a great story on using your platform to the full extent that you can, because she says like she can send a tweet, but her platform extends to getting his phone number, and that's where she went to, and it's just a lesson in, hey, if you have the power to do good, use it. If you can just send a tweet, send your tweet, but if you can also get out there in real life and make some change, do that, because that's much more important.
Right. And so obviously, over the last 48 hours, we've gone from tension in Europe to an invasion in Europe. And essentially, we'll talk about some of the sports ramifications for this. There are many, and they're still unraveling. So, but chances are by the time you hear this podcast, what we're telling you might be partially out of date. And that's just sort of the way it goes. But, the basic situation is that as it stands right now, Russia is about 36 hours into an invasion of Ukraine. We all woke up yesterday to this happening. And the question right now is what can shut this thing down? What can stop this thing from happening? Obviously, we know that Russia wants a pro-Russian Ukrainian government. We know that Ukraine has working towards being a member nation in NATO as a part of their government mandate, and I believe it's a part of their constitution as well. The Russians don't want that. And what's happened here is just, condemnation from around the world. And, we can start with the IIHF is going to meet over the next few days to discuss Russia's participation at basically everything. Should they be allowed at the World Juniors this summer? And I wondered too, we saw this because the doping scandal that happened after Sochi. Russia is still not allowed to participate in the Olympics, but the athletes are. So, if the World Juniors happens and Russia's not there, but the athletes are, I don't agree with punishing athletes either. But at a certain point, it's this is sort of a Band-Aid solution. At a certain point, it should hurt, right?
The figure skaters were a clear example of they didn't eradicate the issue. They again, I can't emphasize this enough. They drugged a child, and then the child was able to compete anyway, and they won a bunch of medals, and everyone left in tears anyway because of the people in charge. So we don't want to punish the athletes. I don't know how you can look at the Russian figure skaters from this Olympics and not look at them as being punished by the people in charge in Russia. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a farce.
Yeah, well, and it's when you've got a gold medal, a silver medal, and a fourth place, and all of them are upset. A 15-year-old is telling you, "I'll never skate again." The silver medalist is saying, "I'll never skate again." It's it really shows you the depths at which this. I mean, that in that particular instance, it's more than just the doping program. Apparently, the coach is just terrible, like a terrible guy. But it just kind of goes to show how bad the problems are. And the thing is, as Steve said, it's a punishment of the athletes for them to even show up. It seems, anyway, at least in certain cases. The other question will be, and the NHL is talking about this too, is, there's going to be a 2024 World Cup, guys, which will be exciting. Should Russia be able to be there? And, from this perspective, and I want you to remember this 2 years from now, because a lot can change in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. This war could be over this week, right? And it is a war. This could be over this week. And 6 months from now, we're probably talking about the next American election. We're probably talking about a bunch of other things in sports. This may be, and I hate to say this may be one of those things that just finds its way out of the news cycle. That's how callous the news cycle is. But I want you to remember how you feel right now and think about, maybe whatever happens in the next 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. I want you to remember that you felt this way right now. The outrage you feel right now, which is almost universal, is how we have to pull that energy and remember this when the 2024 World Cup runs around. Because for me, I don't think you can rightly include them. I just don't. And I don't know if it means that the players can play, and I want best on best. Everybody wants a best on best tournament. I want Ovechkin there. I want Malkin there if he's still playing. I want Panarin there. But at the same time, it's sort of like, can you have representative of that country? Yeah. And
I assume we'll get there. But you just mentioned two Russian players, and they are polar opposites in their approach of defending and talking about Russia. Ovechkin has a long history of being pro-Putin and supporting the Russian government, and Panarin has done the complete opposite and has put his family in jeopardy by standing up against the Russian government. So it's like, how much how much do we expect from the players in the NHL? Like Ovechkin denied media yesterday. He didn't talk. He wanted to get his words right, and he hasn't spoken publicly about it. What do you guys expect from the Russian players in the NHL once they do eventually speak to media? Because they can't hide forever, and particularly Ovechkin.
I think they're doing what a lot of the top hockey players do, unfortunately, and they're waiting to follow. I do think there's a chance that the players do speak out, and I do think they potentially speak out against Putin, but they're waiting for others to do it first. There was a tennis star today. There's protests in Moscow. There's protests in St. Petersburg. This doesn't seem particularly popular amongst the Russian people. I think that's important to note. And if it gets unpopular enough, and if it's enough of a failure, and if Putin loses his power through all this, then it becomes much easier to stand up to him, and we might see players do that. In the interim, he's a direct threat to their families and the people that these players love. One NHL player spoke out against him in Artemi Panarin, and he lost a significant chunk of last season going home to deal with that. A few NHL players, I believe Nikita Zadorov was one of them, liked Artemi Panarin's post, and they had to undo it, out of fear that even liking his words could endanger their family. Over nearly 2,000 people were detained in Russia that we know of yesterday for protesting this war. So there's a lot here. There's a lot of emotion here. There's a lot of reason to condemn Alexander Ovechkin. There's a lot of reason to be patient with Alexander Ovechkin. I don't know how reasonable it is to expect a response right away from any of these players. I think the Russian reality is so different from our own, and we're looking at it from ours, which just doesn't apply. There's been a lot of talk of freedom recently, and I think we know where there's less, if that makes sense.
So here's the problem, though, and there was a debate raging on Twitter yesterday about whether or not you ask a Russian player about what's going on in Russia.
And I'm sure the debate was nuanced, and like everybody could share their opinions correctly, and everybody took it well.
So first off, I think that there is a point to be made when you say, hey, listen, you don't ask American players about their foreign interventions, and Americans have many foreign interventions all the time.
I asked someone about that recently, and
I understand the argument that, hey, you shouldn't be asking Russian players about this if you're not asking American players about it. The difference, though, guys, is that Malkin and Ovechkin, along with Pavel Bure and a few other notable Russian hockey players, started in 2017 something called, I believe it was called Putin Team. And it was basically showing their support for Vladimir Putin and to show publicly that they support him. Ovechkin currently has Putin in his Instagram profile picture. It's him and Putin. The players involved in this were obviously Malkin. I'm just trying to see names. Ilya Kovalchuk's a part of this. Pavel Bure's a part of this. And the other names I don't really fully recognize. Evgeny Malkin said, we want Putin to understand that we support him. We just try to offer our support because in 2018, we have a World Cup in Russia and they have elections too. So this had to do with the elections that, quote unquote, happen in Russia. They happen, but, there's one name on the ballot that's going to win. I think when you do something like that, when you kind of put that sort of team together and support an individual politically, I think in that point, it's okay to ask the question, hey, what do you think about all this? Because, and I'm not expecting there to be some sort of nuanced or crazy answer from Ovechkin or some sort of about face about this, him or Malkin. I think that obviously they have families to protect, and they also may believe in Putin. And I think that you can ask that question of them, though, because frankly, they started that. Nobody asked them to start that social media campaign on this side of the ocean, and to say that, you know, that they don't have to answer for that. They kind of, they do. Like you have to put yourself behind that. There were no American players going, we're Team George Bush.
Not formally.
Not formally, not out there, not under. Now, social media didn't exist. Maybe it would have been different. You see some of it from NHL players with Trump and obviously with Biden as well. Like you can see it, you can see that. But like this is a very obvious and deliberate push for Putin by the Russian government through its big stars around the world. And, you know, I think that it's fair game to ask them about that. I think it's fair game to ask Panarin as well. I mean, he's directly affected by saying, I don't like this guy. And, you know, he had his career put in jeopardy by, what was it? It was a former NHL player too, right?
Yes.
He was a goon for the Penguins.
Yeah, I forget his name.
Yeah.
I forget his name.
So all that is to say.
Nazarov?
Yeah, Andrei Nazarov. Yeah. So all that is to say, I think, you know, when you have that sort of debate, you got to, you do have to kind of frame it in. I understand not asking every Russian, like, you know, I don't expect Ilya Lyubushkin, new Toronto Maple Leaf, to have a big take on that. And it may not even be fair to ask. I don't know. I'm not a journalist on that one, but I think if you're part of the quote unquote Putin team, I would for sure be asking those questions. And I think you're well within your rights to ask them.
Yeah. I don't know if morning skate is the time to be like, hey, are you a Russian asset? Mm-hmm. Like, are you literally an asset of the Russian government? But like, yeah, like it's, you know, it is, like I said, I don't think their reality matches ours.
I agree. Now, around the world, there's been a lot of fallout from this. Poland, Sweden, and Czechia. I'm still not used to not saying Czech Republic. Yeah. All said in Soccer World Cup qualifying that they will not play in Russia, who was going to host the final of that division's qualifier. And it looked like they were going to host a few games before that as well. UEFA, I believe, is meeting today to see if they're going to move the final out of Russia. And Russia's participation has been called into question. In Formula One, reporters asked all the drivers about what they thought. And, you know, I gotta give credit where credit's due. Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen, both world champion F1 drivers, both said it's inappropriate to be racing in a country that's at war. And Vettel just said people are dying stupidly for no reason. I'm not driving there. I won't race there. Promise. And so F1 has actually, as of this morning, canceled the Russian Grand Prix in Sochi due to take place this September. The Haas F1 team, and this story is really interesting, guys, because I don't know if you know this or not about Formula One. Some drivers are there because they deserve to be, and some drivers are there because they have significant sponsorship support to pay for the team.
Right.
In the case of Haas, which is owned by an American, Gene Haas, when Gene bought in, it was like $50 million or something that he paid for the team, or some ridiculous numbers, crazy. And Gene is a big name in American motor racing, and he wanted to have an American team. This is America's F1 team. That was their tagline. And for a few seasons, they did pretty well, and then sort of fell off a cliff, lost some major sponsors. And at the end of Drive to Survive, actually, I think it's season 3, you see Gunther Steiner, the principal lead for the Haas F1 team, go into his trailer, make a call, and Nikita Mazepin, who is the son of Dmitry Mazepin, and I'll explain that in a second, comes in and is a driver with Mick Schumacher, son of Michael. Now, Nikita Mazepin and his father, so his father, Dmitry Mazepin, is the key stakeholder, shareholder in a company that it's like Uralchem or something like that, but they call it Uralkali on the side of the Haas F1 car. The Haas F1 car went from being America's car to Russia's car because it was literally, there's 2 cars on the track. They were both colored like Russian flags, red, blue, and white, specifically Russian. And so yesterday, despite, you know, the relationship there, the Haas team pulled all of the branding off, all the Russian flags off. They ran a white car today in testing in Barcelona. And they've said, listen, we're you know, they can't say that they've dropped Uralkali as a sponsor, but they've dropped them. And that means that Nikita Mazepin probably loses his seat as well. And so it will cost Gene Haas tens of millions of dollars to do this. but he's going to do it. And I imagine that the relationship wasn't that easy anyway. Nikita Mazepin is just not up to being an F1 driver. He's kind of dangerous on the road. Like he actually is, like, the other drivers are so good and he's so not good that it's dangerous for him to be out there. So there's that. And then you have soccer teams in the UK and I believe in Europe dropping their Russian sponsors. And what's interesting is the Chelsea FC, which is owned by a Russian oligarch. There's conversations happening in the UK right now. And the oligarch, by the way, doesn't live in Russia. He lives in the UK. They're talking about, the British government is talking about taking the team back. Just taking it. Yeah, it's not your team anymore. It's our team, which is insane. That's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing. You know, those teams are not cheap, and they would be able to say, no, you're not involved here anymore. Goodbye. And so here's what's happening too. Like, if you're wondering about why this is happening the way that it is, there is a group of people in Russia that are in control, and then there's everybody else. Putin would be at the top of that, and he's quite isolated. If you slap Putin with the same sanctions that you slap his oligarchs with, well, they're all in this together. But what the American and EU and NATO and all, what they've all done is they've said, okay, we're going to go after the oligarchs. We're going to make it impossible for them to move money. We're going to make it impossible for them to sell things. But Putin, we're not going to sanction him. We're just going to sanction his support so that they push him to pull out and to stop this. And so the reputation of Russian companies around the world, of Russia itself, the Russian government, has been severely tarnished by this. And Russian money was supporting a lot of Formula One, a lot of soccer, a lot of other sports, and all of them are pulling out of this. And that's a crazy move. You know, it was funny. Money usually is the thing that talks. Now it's talking, and it's literally cutting off their own supply of money. It's crazy. So I'm curious about where this all leads. And I also want to say this, guys, and I think we should have said it off the top of the show, but we should say it now. The key here is that, you know, there's a lot of Russian Canadians, a lot of Ukrainian Canadians, Americans too, obviously.
Yeah, Canada has the third largest Ukrainian population in the world outside of Ukraine and Russia.
Right. And Ukrainians were the ones who settled the West in Canada, by the way. It's mostly Ukrainians. I think it's important to say that this is, when we say Russia, we mean the Russian government. We don't mean the Russian people, who obviously came out en masse to protest this. We are, you know, obviously, we would highly recommend that if you can find a charity for the Ukraine to donate to, although I couldn't find a good one this morning.
Ivanka Osmak has been linking to some.
She's got it? Okay, so then we'll do that. So we'll link to that in the description. You don't need to say it on the show. Steve will just link to it in the description.
Sure.
Or if you can find it, that's great, whatever. But I think it's an important thing. This is not like license for you to be anti-Russian person, xenophobic. This is a government that is not elected by the people, who does not represent the people, who was doing things that you could argue are against the will of the people. And I also want to say to all the Ukrainian, Canadian, Ukrainian American, Ukrainians who listen to this show, devastated for you, truly sorry. And, you know, I don't know what you always want to end this stuff with something like a good piece of news, but I don't know what it is at this point. Anything that we can do on our end, we will try to do. And, you know, we're with you. I think it's one of those, it's such an ugly situation. They were saying yesterday, what do they say? The darkest day since World War II?
Something like that.
Pretty crazy. So anyway, all that said, the fallout around the world will continue. I'm sure by the time, like I said, by the time you're listening to this, there will probably be more news on this. And I am curious to get what what those certain Russian players have to say. Curious about that. I mean, is that wrong of me? Do you think that's crazy to think? Like, I don't think Ovechkin's going to break the internet with his response. Probably be a non-response.
Oh boy. I think there's a chance players surprise you. Maybe that's naive. But I think they're going to wait for the I think they're going to wait until it's safe for them to do so.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, I don't think it is. Some of them I genuinely support them. Let's not give everyone carte blanche when it comes to the benefit of the doubt. But, do they or don't they? We had this conversation many years ago. There's just no way to know until he's no longer in power.
And I think you made a good point, Steve, earlier, and I think it bears repeating. We can't relate to what these players are going through, because remember, they all have families back home, right? So you're sort of given a decision to join. Maybe you were given the decision to join the Putin team, but maybe you don't really have a decision.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Roses are red, violets are blue. This script is for Valentine's Day, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't shave you.
No.
You don't like it?
It's a mouthful, and I just don't know.
Okay, well, manscaped.com. It's post-Valentine's Day, but the script still says Valentine's Day. Manscaped.com. Use that promo code DANGLE for 20% off and free shipping. Steve, have I ever told you about the number one product package in male landscaping?
But you did tell me about the special cinnamon-flavored Manscaped products for Valentine's Day. So, Adam, go ahead and talk about those.
There is not
Let's
that.
not make up products.
The number one product in this package.
Sponsors love when you make up products.
Let's not make up products.
Learn marketing.
The Performance Package 4.0 from Manscaped is just the thing every guy needs in their life to make each and every day a little more special. The number one product in this package is the Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer, designed to trim hair on loose skin. And get this, the trimmer's advanced skin-safe technology reduces cuts and nicks on your delicate balls. It even has a 4,000K LED spotlight, so you can shave your balls from anywhere and any light too. If the light goes out at your house and the generator doesn't come on, don't worry, you'll still have the flashlight.
Oh my God.
Think about it. Get 20% off with free shipping. Use the code DANGLE at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Use the code DANGLE. Join Cupid and shoot your arrow through Manscaped, even though it's past Valentine's Day. What did you eat every day before going to school when you were a kid?
Cereal.
And what was it loaded with?
Cereal.
And no, what was the cereal loaded with?
Sugar.
Yeah.
Probably.
And carbs and bad stuff, right?
Yeah, my parents didn't really let me do that because I was too hyper.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I had sugar-coated cereal, and I miss it. But here's the thing. You grow up and you realize that you want to cut down on carbs and sugar and unhealthy food, and you can't eat that stuff anymore, and I get heartburn, and I can't eat it.
You got heartburn?
I
From
do.
cereal?
Yeah, I get heartburn from too much sugar. Yeah, it's terrible. That's why I go to Magic Spoon, guys. 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. Only 140 calories in each serving. And let's say this. If you're keto, if you're gluten-free, if you're grain-free, if you're soy-free, if you're low-carb, got you covered at Magic Spoon. Can I run you through some of the flavors?
Sure.
Cocoa, fruity frosted, peanut butter, blueberry, cinnamon, cookies and cream, and maple waffle.
So it's good even if you don't get heartburn from cereal.
Something like that.
Cereal giving you heartburn.
It's too much sugar.
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard.
Cereal's too spicy for
MagicSpoon.com/SDP to grab a custom bundle of cereal today. Be sure to use that promo code SDP at checkout to save $5 off.
So let's get into the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. Finally snapping that 3-game win streak, which I don't know, felt like it dragged on forever because it was so painful. But the team looked, honestly, like the team you expect to see.
There, let me give myself a pat on the back here because the rock, paper, scissors analogy, I'm thinking is looking more and more right. Because again, they do struggle against rock. They do. But they've taken on some really good scissors recently and won. The Carolina Hurricanes, they beat. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they beat. And now the Minnesota Wild, they beat in what was a really stingy game, a game that the Leafs struggled to get chances and shots in, but never seemed frustrated. Never let the game get to them. So, yeah, there have been some struggles recently. Goaltending chief among them. First 3-game losing streak since October, but there's been a lot to cheer for. There's been a lot to be enthusiastic about, for sure.
I don't know how we didn't lead this off with Adam Wilde is right. How is that not the lead of the takeaways from last night's game?
What, they had completely fixable mistakes that if they just fix them, they'll be fine?
No. About the best player in the world.
Oh,
Austin
we're getting
Matthews.
to that. We're getting to that.
Oh, don't worry. Adam's going to highlight that Adam's right.
My takeaway from the game was that the best player showed up and bailed out his team. Like the play that Austin Matthews made on the game-winning goal, where he makes that pass and then he snipes it. He snipes it past Kapanen. Like that was Kako. That was unbelievable. Like that was the best player in the world doing best player in the world stuff. Yes. And like pat on the back to Adam for nailing right now what Austin Matthews is, and he's the best player on the ice every time he steps on the ice.
He had Dmitry Kulikov in hell.
Right.
That was not a fun game for that for that young man. He had him in hell.
So this is the thing, right? Like I think when people were really upset about my take because, you get used to the best player in the world being the best player in the world for a long time. And again, I wasn't ever saying that Connor McDavid can't be the best player in the world or won't be the best player in the world in the future. What I was saying is right now, Austin Matthews is the best player in the world. You look at that takeaway at the blue line as he turns it around. And obviously scores. There are very few players that are going to be able to do that. And I know a lot of people are like, well, what about Huberdeau? What about Huberdeau? Alan Walsh would probably be like, what about Huberdeau?
Yep.
Huberdeau is great, but I don't think any of the best players, Leon, who is worse at defense than Lyubushkin, Jesse, just so you know.
Thank goodness.
Connor, I don't think they all bring all of the things that Austin Matthews bring. You're looking at a player right now who has 36 goals in 48 games. The next closest is Draisaitl with 35 and 51. It's a tight race. And then Chris Kreider, who's been right at the top all season. And then Alexander Ovechkin's a few goals behind. It's going to be a tight race between those four players.
After his slow start, he's 29 in 31. 29 goals in 31 games.
Like
what a mutant.
So if he wins the Rocket, he could win the Rocket. How do you not give him the Selke? How do you not give him the Hart Trophy?
Or the Hart?
The Selke is a little far.
I don't know that it is, guys. His defense is a positive, a massive positive to the Toronto Maple Leafs every time he's on the ice. You got a guy who can score 50-plus goals and potentially win the Selke.
The Selke is the most plug and play your narrative award in the world.
How dare you?
No. And this isn't even you. It changes what the Selke is changes based on the year.
Mm-hmm.
The Selke in a lot of years is best original screenplay because you gave best picture to someone else.
Right.
But best original screenplay is, well, you did a good job at other things. So, if Matthews didn't win the Hart, would he win the Selke then? Is the Selke winner this year adequate at defense, but sick in terms of goal scoring? Should the Selke winner be David Kampf? You know what I mean? Who's in the conversation is what I want to know. We've had a lot of Hart conversation. I haven't heard a lot of Selke.
Mm-hmm. Usually the number 2 in the Hart votes gets the Selke, right?
Exactly. It's best original screenplay. So it's gotta, is Huberdeau or Barkov in there?
They should be.
Yeah. So guys like that. But I think Matthews is you're seeing the conversation more and more that the Hart conversation is Shesterkin and Matthews. It's 2-horse race right now. And it's real hard for goalies to win it.
Yeah, and Ryan Mead, by the way, from Blue Shirts Banner, posted a tweet last night saying, who would you rather start your franchise with right now, Austin Matthews or Igor Shesterkin?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a great question. It's a really great question.
Yeah.
I am going to go full Austin Matthews on that because as we've seen with Thatcher Demko, you can have a great goalie and a terrible team. You can find great goaltending. You cannot find people who can score like Austin Matthews. There's been like 3 in the last decade. And no offense to Igor Shesterkin, but there have been other goalies, more than 10 of them, who have done that in the last 20 years.
Philosophically,
like Mika Kiprusoff was king, and he had a goals against average below 2.
He was ridiculous.
Yeah, but there's always a goalie who's ridiculous.
Yeah. Philosophically, you start from the base, right? So if you're starting a franchise from scratch, you don't want to worry about who's in net every night. So philosophically, I go with the goalie. But as a Leafs fan, who I've gotten to cheer for some teams with really good goaltending that weren't able to do the other things. Austin Matthews is unlike any player I've ever had the opportunity to cheer for. He's so good that we take him for granted. We've never had a player who is, if he didn't score for 2 straight games, we'd be like, what's up with him? Is everything all right? If Matthews is more likely to score than not. Jesse, what was the stat you said since his slump?
29 in 31.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
That's stupid. That's preposterous. So philosophically, I go with the goalie, but since Austin Matthews is involved in the conversation, I go with him. That's so dumb. 29 and 31.
Like,
knock that off.
Otherworldly.
Well, actually, don't. Please don't.
Don't knock that off. It's otherworldly.
Never.
You can't replicate that. And no offense to Igor Shesterkin, but Matthews has been doing it for 6 years.
Matthews is the only 60 goal scorer to never score 50.
Okay. Oh, so you're on my side of 4 goals is not a hat trick.
No. How did you shoehorn that in?
If 60 isn't 50, then 4 isn't 3.
No, I'm saying that because he's never reached either plateau.
No.
He could have, he for sure would have hit 50 at least once, but he would have, I think, hit 60 at least once had the seasons not been shortened.
60 isn't 50, 4 isn't 3. Thank you very much.
So Ovechkin and Stamkos, when they had 60, just don't count.
So if you get 6 goals in a game, Jesse, is that 2 hat tricks?
No, it's something else. It's like, what you got to give it its own name.
Sex trick.
Yeah, there you go. Sex trick. That's what Adam used to do in high school. With his leather pants.
Sure. Just big money over here. I have to say, so Matthews looked like absolutely otherworldly last night. It was great to see Mrazek playing at Mrazek's best. And that's the thing is, like, if you're a Detroit fan, if you're a Carolina Hurricanes fan, you can relate to this. Mrazek giveth and Mrazek taketh away. You're just never sure what you're going to get.
A really good Mrazek game is a few really good saves, give up a goal, and make a great save off a mistake you created.
The ugly rebound. And he bailed himself out. It was great.
Like, that is, boy, what a... like whenever I see him in nets, I'm just like, stress it is. Like, because and that's not due to a lack of faith. It's due to he plays an unbelievably stressful style. The amount of times he pushes himself well out of the nets, in situations where, thank God, the other team doesn't come up with the puck. Man, that guy's movements are way too big. Way too big. He's not controlled at all. That dude is a Mustang of a goalie. He's old school style. All these cookie cutter goalies who,
stay in their net.
Robotic and stay in their net.
10 the goal.
No, Mrazek is just that dude is the pre-workout of goalies. He's just pure caffeine and adrenaline. Only allowed one.
Only allowed one. Are there any other takeaways other than Matthews and Mrazek from that game that you thought? Because Minnesota is a very, very good team, and I thought after 2 bad losses against teams that you should have beaten, great way to come back. You got to feel good about that. And like we said against St. Louis, right when the losing skid sort of started. You are going to lose to good teams from time to time. So it's not like with Minnesota, you're like, oh boy, they look terrible. They look fine. What other takeaways did you get from that and kind of that maybe didn't make the headlines?
Can I ask, how was the defense?
Sure.
Steve, how was the defense?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
It's weird. So I don't know what it is, but the Leafs know how to play a certain way where 10 minutes into the game, you're like, oh, tonight's going to be fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I'm not an X's and O's expert. I don't know how to quantify that. But as a fan, I know when my heart rate is higher or lower. And last night it was lower. They have this way of doing this against the Islanders. And, Islanders used to be heart attack level. And then they decided to start Michael Hutchinson against the Islanders. And I was like, they're out of their minds. They're going to get killed. Hutchinson gets the shutout. And since then, they've sort of owned that team defensively. It was weird. Last year, in a season where they were winning a lot of games 5-4, they owned the Edmonton Oilers in a way that was so strange and so absolute, like so dominant that even, cheering for the team that's on the wrong end of Connor McDavid, your heart rate's low. And last night, I see Peter Mrazek. I see he's going up against the Minnesota Wild, who are really good. And I'm like, oh boy, tonight's not going to be good for old Steve's ticker. And about 10 minutes in, I'm like, oh, it's going to be fine. I think Lyubushkin did take a penalty. Kampf was in the box, which is always stressful. Underratedly, through all the Leafs defensive struggles, man, their penalty kill is so good. It's so good, and it's really been a strength of theirs this season. But 5-on-5, they just do a good job denying the zone. They moved some bodies, I noticed last night, from the front of the net. And it's a good thing they did, because the Wild are a team you have to keep to the outside because they've got shooters. They've got unbelievable shooters on that team. I mean, the one goal they did score was a pretty good snipe from Freddie Gaudreau, of all people.
Third star of the night, Freddie Gaudreau.
Third star of the night, Freddie Gaudreau. Why not? I mean, yeah, he scored one of 3 goals that wasn't an empty netter. It's a pretty easy third star. But I would love a breakdown of how teams who own the Leafs play versus how teams who struggle against the Leafs play in terms of generating offense, because it's weird. This team, when it decides to, can play low event hockey with anybody.
Yep.
It's the strangest thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like they should strive for it. It's almost like they should slow down.
Oh, is this Mike Babcock who's joined the Zoom call?
I didn't see that.
That's what he tried to do for 4 years here in Toronto. He tried to get everybody on the team to play this really slow, low event hockey, and you get upset when they'd score 5 goals and allow 6 goals, or allow 4.
But they couldn't score then.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they would get down in a game. And then all of a sudden we got to play our dumb style, and then they go down 2-0, and then they got to double down on dumb, and they come back, and then but there's something about last night. There wasn't a moment. Okay, sorry, there was one moment where I clenched when Mrazek gave up that rebound, but other than that, I didn't really clench. What a weird goalie, man.
See, the thing is, they're capable of it, and they're capable of it against good teams. That's my point from last episode. Fixable problems, are they fixable problems? And listen, I don't think that the lineup as it is can continue. Obviously, Nick Robertson was called up today. I think who was called up yesterday? It was like Christian Rubens and somebody else.
Manel.
And basically what they're doing when they do that is to fill out their cap space so they can maximize their LTIR space, which tells me they're working on something. Now, Frege this morning in 32 Thoughts kind of mentioned that they have called Dallas about John Klingberg. He threw out JT Miller as a possibility as well. We know that Vancouver, they have called Vancouver, but from what we've heard, it's been more Luke Shen related than JT Miller related. It would be amazing for the Leafs to get JT Miller, who, by the way, had 2 goals and 2 assists last night. Price would be high.
The 7 goal drubbing of Calgary, right?
Yeah. Jeez.
What was that?
What was that? Calgary with a 10-game winning streak snapped. Insane. The highlights are crazy too. But the JT Miller thing seems like less of a possibility. I still feel like they want defensemen.
I think
Klingberg would be incredible.
But would he though? Because he's like another Morgan Riley.
But we didn't think that was possible like 2 weeks ago. And then Muzzin going out now opens up that possibility. So if Klingberg is now on the board, I think what else is? If it's Klingberg plus something else that's smaller, it just opens up everything.
Who wants to play a fun game called Reckless Theories? So Nick Robertson called up today. Mm-hmm. Here's a couple ways to look at this. Number one, why are they going out and spending a fortune on JT Miller when they haven't even seen what they have here with Nick Robertson?
Nicky Bob.
So he's about to get a big audition, and I got to imagine they're calling him up. They're not calling him up to play fourth line.
But they're calling him up great in the AHL, Steve.
So he didn't have a good start. He got injured, and he's come back and been good recently. He's been good. You call him up to put him with JT and Nylander and nothing else. Like maybe you give him a look on the third line. But I think he's there for a big role, because if you're going to go out and spend, you better do it knowing that you have no other options. So that's practical, fun, optimistic option. Mm-hmm. You want dumb chaos option? You know who plays for the Dallas Stars? Jason Robertson, Nick's brother.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How close to done is Nick Robertson for John Klingberg?
But then Klingberg's up at the end of the year, so you're giving up Robertson. Oh,
I didn't say it was a good deal.
Also, here's the problem. Klingberg is a great puck mover, but he brings you none of the things that you're missing with Jake Muzzin. You have Klingberg, a developing Klingberg and Sandin. We'll see if he's better or worse than Klingberg. I don't know. Then you got Morgan Riley, who's a great puck mover as well. TJ Brody, underrated as a puck mover. Really good. Yeah. You need snarl. You need toughness. I'm not really sure. Listen, it doesn't make them worse. Klingberg's a great defenseman, but I don't know if it's what they need. You know what I mean? Like it's sort of, it just seems like, okay, well, we got another guy who is devastating at one end of the ice and questionable on the defensive end. I don't think they need more of that. That's an odd one.
I don't think saying Klingberg's questionable at the defensive end is correct. Also, I like Sandin as a developing Klingberg as a great assessment of who he is. That's fun.
Yeah.
And he's got the patented high shot from the point too. That was Jeff Merrick used to always hammer that home. Klingberg, when he fires it on, the puck is way up here. Mm-hmm. So friggin' duck. And Sandin's got a little bit of that.
So we need another Tyson Barrie? Is that what you're saying?
No, that was low directly at the shin pad.
Oh, right.
If you add Klingberg, is an improvement on the team. Like, shouldn't that just be how we're looking at it? Like, if you add this piece, does the team get better? And I think it does.
Does it make them a stronger pair of scissors? Potentially even a pair of scissors that cuts rock.
You know, like, does that help you? Does that help you win one more playoff game?
Listen,
I think having John Klingberg on your lineup does do that. Jesse, and that's the lens I'm looking through.
I have to disagree with you, Jesse. John Klingberg is awful on defense. He's just not good. This is not what this team needs. And people are like, well, Damon Severson looks good. Damon Severson is the second coming of Jake Gardiner. If you want that, fine. I like Jake Gardiner too, but I don't think it's what they need. I mean, honestly, I mean, if the price for Sherratt wasn't so high, like Sherratt to me is worth like a 7th rounder. For some reason, everybody's like, well, it's going to be first overall pick. I don't see that. That doesn't make sense to me. But you need somebody who is going to bring what Jake Muzzin didn't bring, because even with Jake Muzzin in the lineup, you needed more of what Jake Muzzin brought.
Yeah.
Like Klingberg is objectively, of the top 4 defensemen on Dallas, Suter, Heiskanen, Lindell, Klingberg, he is the worst by a mile. He's spectacular on the power play, spectacular puck mover, not the guy you need for the Leafs, who already play shaky defense on certain nights, except for last night.
Guys.
What?
My condition's acting up.
What is it?
My condition where, oh no, Mark Giordano. Where does Mark Giordano figure into this conversation? Oh, when are we going to have a conversation about my paisan?
There's somebody who's not playing too well this season. Like,
that's why he's cheap. Oh,
that's what I've been hearing out of Seattle.
He and Ron Francis had a call, I think, yesterday, and they are going to explore the trade market, which means he's getting traded.
Yeah, that's somebody you do right by. Is that not like,
yes,
if you're a GM in the National Hockey League, you do right by Mark Giordano. You send him out of there to a contender. Like, just do that.
It just kind of sucks that like they claimed him for no reason and made him captain for no reason, and then now they're trading their captain 40 games in. That sucks. Man. Like, I'm telling you guys, they fucked up. They fucked that draft up. They were terrible. It was terrible.
I do think Seattle is an interesting team to look at if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kyle Dubas, I think we already said this point. He's obviously willing to get creative. And with an expansion team that is still very raw in a lot of ways, there's a lot of fun wiggle room there. And I got to wonder what's going on. Like just lesser things, like Nick Robertson's coming up. Is Engvall scratched? Is he going to get waived?
No.
Is he going to get traded? If he does sneak through waivers, do they put him in the minors? Because his contract is almost 100% variable.
Mm-hmm.
But is that what they need right now? Because they actually need to be closer to the cap in order to get the most benefit out of LTIR.
Yeah.
There's the show.
Engvall's been fine.
Like, he's been fine, but someone's got to go.
Someone's
got to get out of the lineup.
It's been nice. It's been nice that he's been mean.
But
do you drop Kerfoot to the? Who do you drop to the fourth line?
Kerf to the third line, I would think.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. But then who drops off the third line?
I don't know. Well, it might be Mikheyev. He had the poops.
And Kerfoot played on the third line last night, did he not?
He did. Yeah. At least he started there, and then as the game goes, there's a little bit of shuffling. But there's this great show. I don't know if you heard of it, the Chris Johnston show. Where Chris Johnston talked about the Leafs being very active. And to me, that's not a one move thing. That's not, do they got to get this guy or this guy? I think there's a lot of options where they go out and make 3 or 4 moves here of decent significance. I'm jacked. I'm really jacked. But
it could be a really fun trade deadline, and hopefully Muzzin's healthy. I learned on the CJ show, so I had heard that Muzzin has like a concussion history. CJ was like, he doesn't. He's not like, at least had a couple, but not like the long resume that we were expecting. I think he's had other injuries as well. I just think it's not as bad as previously expected, but I hope my prayers are that he's good enough to play in the first round and get some really good rest in the next 2 months and heal whatever's ailing him. He hasn't been the same this year. He just hasn't.
Yeah. Concussions are not all equal. The one he got in January was a bad one. And then to get concussed again so soon after, it's bad. And that was the other thing CJ brought up is in order to get the max benefit out of LTIR, he's got to be out basically the whole time. Because what if he comes back? They've acquired this player. They either got to shed or be penalized against the cap for next season.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's something they explore. So they're not going to be able to really make a decision here until they get some answers. And I would be shocked if they had any this soon after the injury.
The Nashville Predators have to re-sign Philip Forsberg, and this is going to be interesting because he was mentioned in trade talks. I think it was last year or potentially the year before. Here's the problem:
year before.
You've got $16 million per year wrapped up in Duchesne and Johansson, and Forsberg's got to make more than that. But for this to work, he's going to have to come in lower than Roman Josi at 9.059, and they got to figure this out probably by the deadline. They could keep him if there's will to go on both sides. But if you're Philip Forsberg, you could go for the Big Ten. You could try.
He's a guy. So he's only played 39 games this season. Had he not only been in 39 games and missed some time, he'd be in the Rocket conversation. By the time the season's done, he might be. He's got 26 goals in 39 games.
Insane.
It's dumb. It's I'll tell you what it is. It's an over 50 goal pace, is what it is. That's the sort of season he's having. How often are you able to go out and get a potential 50 goal scorer at the deadline? How often are you at the risk of losing a potential 50 goal scorer?
For a team that's performed quite well.
Yeah, like Philip Forsberg going makes no sense. But again, there are a few teams in the league whose reality is not the reality of a consistent cap team. And the Nashville Predators are one of them. You know, we sort of talked about, who are we talking about in that regard? The Ducks?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. And
yeah, the Ducks are.
Yeah, the Blues did this a few years ago when they were in a playoff spot and sold on Kevin Shattenkirk. And a couple of years later, you know, ended up working out for them. Okay, they won a cup. I wonder if the Preds, who are doing so well, have to pull the chute here.
Can you move one of the other contracts?
I mean, even if you can move one of the other contracts, you still need to sign this player.
Yeah,
Forsberg's got all the leverage here. Never mind. I was about to say, I didn't even realize this. They're leading their division. No, they're not. Wild card is not a division. They're, but they're the top wild card. Yeah, it is now. But I mean, they're 2 points back of second in the division, man. They're real good. They're real good. And Philip Forsberg holds all the cards.
I just want to throw this in there. It's breaking news, or somewhat breaking, I guess. Jokerit, which is a Finnish hockey club in the KHL, has pulled out of the KHL playoffs. I think CJ said yesterday on TSN that Finnair, which is one of their major sponsors, they weren't even sure if Finnair would fly them into Russia. And some of their other major sponsors just pulled out completely. So they are done for the season, which is pretty crazy. I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry about that. So back to the trade deadline for a second here. The Forsberg thing is interesting. The question I have, which I think a lot of people had about the Toronto Maple Leafs, is can you be a viable winner every year on the Nashville Predators with a $9 million center, an $8 million center, and another $8 million center?
Yes, if they're good.
Yes, if they're good. Well, what's Ryan Johansson doing these days anyway?
So let me look it up, because I know they're having better seasons than expected.
Duchesne's seems to be back on track a little bit. Okay, so Johansson's got 36 and 49. 36 points, 49 games.
Right. That's still an overpay, but it's good. And Duchesne, 46 points, 23 goals in 48 games. It's good.
Yeah, that's what you need from an $8 million. Yeah, a point a game player, $8 million. That's a good deal.
Like $8 million. I mean, centers are so valuable. Like, Jesus, if I'm Nazem Kadri, I head into this off season and there's no way I'm making less than either of those guys.
No way.
Are you joking me? No.
Yeah, no way.
There's just no way. But Duchesne, there may be takers, but he's the good one. Right.
And he's playing right wing this year, by the way. Granlund is the center.
Right.
So, but if you're a team, there's no reason to go out and get Duchesne now. Like, you can wait till the next 4 years of his contract. Why take a risk now on a Duchesne? Maybe this is his up year and then it goes back down on the charts. Like, why trade for him when there's so much time left on an $8 million per year deal and there's like 4 years left?
Well, if you want to win now and you need a guy like that, that would be
for Johansson.
That can't be the guy.
This could be Johansson's swan song. You know what I mean? Like, this could be the best his career is from now on,
right?
With his injury history and everything, and you root for him to be better than that. But you never know. People forget how gruesome his injury was. Like, wasn't it like an infection deep within his thigh or something that he suffered during the Stanley Cup final?
Yeah, it was bad.
Just before the Stanley Cup final, it was really bad. The kind of thing that will change an athlete. So it's kind of. Contract aside, it's amazing he's still in the league. But for that reason, that's why it's kind of hard to go out and get a guy like that. Dave Poile has done a good job filling in the margins.
Absolutely. Remains one of the smartest GMs in the league.
Yeah. And like,
they never aren't in it. They never aren't in it, no matter what.
Luke Cunnin has been good for them. Yakov Trenin has been good for them. Philip Tomasino is a rookie who's only going to get better. Interested to see how they view Eli Tolvanen, who was once the best player outside of the NHL and isn't. Colton Sissons has been good. Tanner Jeannot, they've done a good job. And I it bears repeating. I had no idea UC Saros had this in them. Do you know how many games they've gotten out of goalies not named UC Saros?
How many?
10.
I don't know. Really?
10. 8 out of Dave Riddick, who I believe was hurt, and that's a big reason. And 2 out of Connor Ingram. That's it. Dave Riddick's an 890. Connor Ingram was a 906 in the games he played. Saros in 43 games is a 924.
Wow. They're also not in cap trouble. Like you can leave all of those big contracts, those $8 million contracts there, and still add. Like the Nashville Predators have done a fantastic job with their cap.
Spoil, man.
It's amazing.
I think it gets done and he stays there.
Yeah.
I'm curious about what your thoughts are on Jared McCann. He's already at a career high in goals. He's going to be at a career high in points soon. Unrestricted free agency, but just went on the IR. So, I mean, obviously he could be off by the trade deadline, but is that a guy that, I mean, listen, if you can't get JT Miller, do you not call the Seattle Kraken about McCann and Giordano?
So, sorry, by the way, Jared McCann is an RFA.
RFA, excuse me.
Yeah, so that's, I mean, I think if I'm Ron Francis and I'm trying to build a team worth paying attention to, you pry Jared McCann out of my cold, dead hands. But maybe you get a premium as a result. You know, the Seattle Kraken still have projected cap space of just under 6.9. Nice. And ridiculous amount of roster spots. So that's a thing that's sort of come up in conversations. I believe CJ's brought it up a bunch of times. Some teams are kind of close to the max amount of roster spots they can have, which is 50. Most teams are in the mid to high 40s. The Seattle Kraken have 37.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes. So to me, they're a prime candidate for ahoy hoy, feed us your garbage.
Yeah.
Yes. Are there any teams out there that are struggling to get underneath the cap? Please feed us your garbage. Bring us your trash.
Bring
your
out
garbage.
the dead. Bring
out your dead. It is because they can afford it in more ways than one, and they can still get what they want or wanted out of expansion, which is draft picks and cap room, because the garbage expires.
Right. Yeah. And to answer your McCann question, Adam, if I'm the GM of a team, I don't move my 25-year-old leading scorer of the team that I have control of.
Yeah,
fair enough.
It's not, I don't think it's the right move for Francis to move.
Yeah, stupid.
So what about, no, you got to ask the question. So I'm going to make you feel something. I'm going to make you feel two things.
Sorry.
Sometimes mean.
No, you know how it's,
I think he needed
sometimes
that.
Sometimes it's fun to be unnecessarily mean.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, stupid.
Moron.
So when I bring up the Philadelphia Flyers, what feelings do you have, Steve? Just about the organization. Oh, shut up.
Yeah. Boo, be relevant again.
Jesse, similar thoughts, feelings?
Go Gritty.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. He is the most likable part about the Flyers right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up two players. I'm going to bring up two players and I'm going to make you feel something. Number one, if he makes it to March 17th, Claude Giroux will play his 1,000th game with the Flyers and then potentially be traded after. However, interestingly, it's been reported that it won't kill him if he doesn't make it and he gets traded before that. But you gotta think he goes to 1,000 games, right? Like even if you're the Flyers, you're like, listen, I'll do the deal just on March 18th. I'm not doing it today.
100%. Like there's no way he gets traded to a team. Second game is his 1,000th. They have a mini ceremony for this new guy. It won't feel the same. That should be your send off. That should be your retirement party, you know?
Yes.
So here's, I want to see if any of you remember this. Mm-hmm. The year the Leafs finished last on purpose.
Yeah.
A player they acquired.
I know this.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Played their 1,000th game as a Leaf, and they got presented the silver stick that everyone does when they play their 1,000th game. And everyone in the building had the resounding vibe of who cares. Do you remember the player?
Eric Brewer.
Eric Brewer. Damn. Good one.
And I followed Eric Brewer's career because he was one of those guys that I always used to pick up in fantasy draft things. Because like in the NHL, like when you do like a fantasy, what do they call that? Do they call that a fantasy draft in NHL when you just draft your own team out of all the NHL players?
I think so. Yeah.
So I know what you mean. Because the Leafs were so bad. And I didn't really like any of the players on the Leafs for a little while there. There'd be like a couple guys would be like, yeah, Ian White's cool, I guess. But like I used to just redraft the whole NHL every time. And Eric Brewer is a guy I'd always pick up because he was like, you remember when the players were like, they were either stick thin or they were just like a tree stump.
They were fat. Enormous. Yes.
Eric Brewer was always that guy and he had the hammer next to his name and he used to crush people. Yeah, and I remember when the Leafs got him, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, but this sucks.
So I was wrong. That was 2014-15, and he actually played for 3 teams. So there was Tampa, who he was with for several seasons, and that would have been cool. He played 9 games for the Anaheim Ducks and 18 games for the shitty, very, very shitty Leafs.
There are actually, I just Googled it, there are pictures of Eric Brewer in a Leafs jersey somehow.
It's his picture on HockeyDB.
Is it?
He looks so upset.
Yeah. What a shame.
You know what's funny? It might actually be a Lightning uniform.
Wow. Eric Brewer is also, in one of these shots, blocking a shot. He came to the Toronto Maple Leafs and actually blocked a shot. How about that?
He played
at that point.
I'm telling you, he played.
Giroux's got to stick around.
Giroux's got to stick around. I think he's going to stick around.
Yeah.
Now, so here's the other player on the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm going to make you guys feel something, okay, about the Flyers because we've been boo, tomato. There is a player on the Philadelphia Flyers who has been around a lot longer than you think. How many games has Rasmus Ristolainen played?
Not you mean in his career?
The NHL.
Yeah, not for the Flyers. He just got
just in his career.
Okay.
Just guess.
I'm trying to think of when he was drafted.
500.
Okay.
501.
Rasmus Ristolainen has played 600 games in the NHL.
Wow. I was going to say 600. Shoot.
How many games?
But I wanted to be an asshole. Damn.
How many games has Rasmus Ristolainen? How many games has Rasmus Ristolainen played in the playoffs?
Oh, 0.
0 games.
Yeah.
He's the new Jay Bouwmeester.
There's a guy, I think, and apparently there's been discussions with Flyers management. He wants to go and play in the playoffs. And I think they're going to try to grant that request.
For what?
Oh, God.
What do you get back in return?
I don't know. They gave up a lot to get him.
Yeah.
Okay, here. Can I go through that? So the Flyers, for a team that's very shitty, usually if a team that's very shitty is very shitty, you want to look at their cap-friendly page and go, gosh, look at all those picks. Well, the Flyers this year are missing a second-rounder.
Ooh.
Do we know why they're missing a second-rounder?
Rasmus, right?
Nope. The answer is not Shane Gostisbehere.
They had to throw it in as a sweetener?
A second and a 7th plus Shane Gostisbehere for future considerations.
Oh, what did they give up for Ryan Ellis?
That is a good question, and I will look that up in a minute. But the Rasmus Ristolainen trade, which is the second.
Read it.
Oh. Bro, it's so fucking bad. And the fact that they're already pulling the chute is unbelievable. 2021 first round pick, 14th overall, which the Sabres used on Isaac Rosen. And 2023 second round pick. Jeez. God, that's tough. Let me try to find Ryan Ellis real quick for you.
Yeah, and Haig is a second round pick, right? So that's 2 seconds and a first for Ristolainen. If you
pretty bad
that way.
That is
pretty bad.
Stop that. Knock that off right now. Okay, here.
27-year-old second round pick, but still.
Ryan Ellis for Philippe Myers, and Nolan Patrick was the deal. Nolan Patrick, who they picked second overall in 2017.
Okay. All right.
And, with Ellis, it was full cost, right?
Listen, if the Flyers had that defensive core about 4 years ago, it would have been formidable.
Man. And dude.
Like Ryan Ellis at his best.
Stop letting Chuck Fletcher spend your money. Stop. When will that memo go out? Stop letting Chuck Fletcher spend your money. He doesn't know how.
I mean, the Wild made the playoffs every year under Chuck Fletcher. Every year. Steve, every year. And they got that playoff gate revenue every year, Steve.
Oh, yeah. And everyone's just like, Dubas makes a playoff every year. Yeah, that's the narrative around him. That's definitely the narrative around the Leafs, right? Is that they make the playoffs every year. And
everybody's good with that. Everybody's good with that.
Year. Yeah,
everybody's happy with that. That's all we need. Just make the playoffs.
No. For the next team who hires Chuck Fletcher, my question is why? He doesn't do things that are good. Knock it off and get a brain. Mm-hmm. Not him. Listen, at this point, fool me once, et cetera, et cetera. What is the saying for the third time? Fool me a third time, you're a fucking moron? Stop letting this guy spend your money. Stop.
Do we need a t-shirt that says "Fool me a third time, you're a fucking moron"?
Fool me a third time, I'm a fucking moron.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
This dude throws money in a furnace, and everyone goes, "We don't know why we're bad."
Yeah.
Give Chuck Fletcher to a small market team. I'm begging someone. And follow them around with a camera crew all year. Guys, it's beyond the Parise and Suter contracts. What are you doing? What are you doing letting him spend your money?
I can't wait till the Chuck Fletcher Arizona Coyotes take the ice at ASU next year.
And they hand him $46, and he's like, what do I get, a per diem? They're like, no, this is for players. And he's fucked. And he doesn't know what to do. Like, holy smokes. Guys, stop letting this man commit arson with your money.
Anyway, man, I love anytime I get to bring up the Flyers. I love bringing up Chuck Fletcher.
He's the noted arsonist, Chuck Fletcher. Stop.
Hey, Steve and Jesse, do you like to eat?
Yes.
Do you like to get farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep?
Yeah.
Do you like to skip steps from the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make cooking fast, fun, and affordable?
Skip steps to my loo.
That's right. America's #1 meal kit is HelloFresh, and you need to get it. HelloFresh delivers pre-portioned ingredients to your door. Farm fresh produce arriving within the week, every week, so you can have convenience without skipping out on quality. Skip the trip to the grocery store. Save those long wait times in line. You don't need that anymore.
No.
You need HelloFresh. Now, here's what you need to do. Go to HelloFresh.com/SDP16 and use the code what, Steve?
It's not good by rotten.
SDP16. That's right. For you to get 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. Again, it's the promo code
SDP16.
Thank you.
Did I do good?
Yes. HelloFresh.com/SDP16. Enjoy America's #1 meal kit. It's a new year, but if it's feeling harder than ever to find and hire qualified people that you need for your small business, LinkedIn Jobs is where you need to go. They make it easier to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. So you can create your free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs and reach a network of over 770 million people. That's kind of a big network.
It blew your mind. I heard it in real time.
I did. Focus on candidates with the right job skills and experience and use screening questions. Like what? Give me a screening question, Steve.
What's your name?
There you go.
That's a good one. I hope you ask everybody.
Get your role in front of the most qualified people, like people who can name themselves. Then you can use simple tools that LinkedIn Jobs actually has, which are a lot deeper than what Steve expressed there, to quickly filter and prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs at #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Did you, Steve?
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
No.
No, it's good.
Imagine if I knew that. That'd be so good.
What's the promo code, Jesse?
SDP.
SDP. So you post your jobs for free at linkedin.com/SDP. That's linkedin.com/SDP to post your job for free. It even rhymes. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, are you thinking about upgrading your vehicle in 2022?
Oh, I've thought about it, but how do I make it a reality?
Edmunds is how you make it a reality.
Yes.
Let's say you want to upgrade to a truck, like I did a couple of years ago.
Man.
And now you park your truck on the sidewalk.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I walked up to Adam's house today, and I saw his truck. The back wheel was right on the sidewalk.
You don't know how to park?
I know how to park. But when you have a truck, you need to park harder.
Yeah.
That's right.
Fair.
And you can find one on Edmunds. Car shopping can already be confusing and a stressful process. Just ask Steve when he tried to buy his last Mazda. In 2022, finding the right car will be even trickier due to inventory shortages. You know this. So Edmunds goes the extra mile to make car buying easier for shoppers like you. With honest car reviews, video test drives, online shopping tools, and the latest in consumer advice. Over 50 years of trusted car research, shopping advice, and price guidances all in one place. You want to go to Edmunds.com. That's EDMUNDS.com. Edmunds, we drive it like it is.
Lastly, it seems like the Chicago Blackhawks are aware finally that their reputation is in tatters and are updating us from the desk of Danny Wirtz. The next round of GM discussions
No, Danny, I don't want to hear it.
You don't?
No, sorry. Anytime I hear his name, I'm obligated to interrupt.
Oh, that's that's fair.
Yeah. Dismissible leader.
So according to Frege, the finalists appear to be incumbent, who's already working there, Kyle Davidson, Tampa Bay Director of Operations, Matthew Darsh, who have heard great things about and was surprised actually that the Canadians didn't hire, and Cubs Assistant General Manager. That's right, Chicago Cubs Assistant General Manager, Jeff Greenberg. It's been an interesting process. And actually, apparently one of the people they reached out to, because they reached out to a lot of non-hockey people, which I think is really interesting, Raptors Vice President Teresa Resch. And I guess Resch said that, didn't say it on sources, but the sources are saying that Resch said that didn't think it was the right thing for her, but felt Chicago was legit in its interests. And Frege put this on his thing. He's like, one thing about the Raptors is they pay very, very well, which is why, same with the Leafs. You're wondering, it's like, why does Lawrence Gilman not have a GM job in the NHL? That's because Lawrence Gilman would be taking a pay cut.
Oh, yeah.
Like if I were the Flyers, that would be the guy I'd be calling. Lawrence Gilman has done amazing work. You look at the Bunting contracts, you look at the value he has helped find, and the cap shenaniganery that they're still able to pull off because of him. Why is he not a GM? Well, because all the pressure and none of the money. Yeah. If you simply, and this is where it's so funny. This is what Alan was talking about when we talked about the luxury cap. He's like, listen, you have a bunch of players on LTIR that teams are just hiding, like the Canadians, like the Tampa Bay Lightning last year, like the Leafs forever and ever, and they're not getting taxed on those player contracts. So the small market teams see no benefit, and the big market teams continue to outspend them. What if we taxed that?
And when you say tax, you mean taking money and putting it back into the smaller market teams.
That's right. So if you're a big market team, and it doesn't matter who's injured. If Shea Weber's injured and he's injured for the remainder of his contract, it's too freaking bad. You're getting taxed on that. Mm-hmm. And that money is going to the Coyotes and everybody else who doesn't make money. By the way, do you know what an equalization payment looks like? Do you know how much actually gets paid out to each of the small market teams for that?
No.
$5 million.
Oh,
that's it?
That's it. So if you think the salary cap is really helping your small market team with $5 million,
well, even
that's not a great equalization payment, man.
Even look at what the Leafs are doing right now with Jake Muzzin. So in order to get the most LTIR benefit, they have to do what?
Bring up more people.
Get closer to the cap.
Yes.
So this mechanism of the salary cap forces teams, or incentivizes teams to spend more money. The salary cap is to do the exact opposite of that. But because of the salary cap, the Toronto Maple Leafs are spending more money than they were yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's dumb.
If you don't think big market teams have advantages in other ways, like, you're totally wrong on that. Because if you go to the training facilities of the Leafs, if you go to the coaches that they have the access to, and just the all the extracurricular things that players in big markets have, smaller market teams don't have those. Like, there are inherent advantages just to being worth more and having more money.
Hanging on to great assistant general managers.
Yeah.
I interviewed Tobias Lindberg when shortly after he became a Leaf. He was traded to the Leafs in the Dion Phaneuf trade with the Ottawa Senators. And I was like, what's the difference between, the wherever, I think the Sens were still playing in Binghamton at the time, and the Marlies. And he's like, the Marlies goalie coach travels with them. Wow. I think it was the goalie coach. It was either goalie coach or video. You know what I mean? Like, imagine you're a goalie going through a slump. And gosh, I would just like a refresher with my goalie coach, like, just to clear my mind. But you're on a 7-game road trip and it's game 1 and the goalie coach doesn't travel. You know what I mean? 7-game road trips are not out of the question in the American League.
Yeah. Video call.
So
I guess
whether it was goalie coach or video coach, I believe it was goalie coach. It's enormous advantages for the big market teams.
Mm-hmm. And there's a reason they put in that rule, what was it, 2 years ago, about off-season training and teams not using the facilities, because the big market teams could fly guys around and allow them to use all the practice facilities. And they're like, nope, you can't have the big market teams spending the money that they have.
That was the corniest damn thing.
What, do you remember that?
The Leafs.
Yeah, I do.
Just because the Leafs were doing it?
It was just because the Leafs.
Oh,
it was. When the Leafs do something, people find out about it. If Philadelphia had done that, another big market team, or New York had done that, another big market team, nobody would have batted an eye. But because it's the Leafs, and because remember they hired NHL refs to come in and ref games too?
Yeah, and they had to shut it down.
Oh, you can't do that.
No. Well,
why?
Like, what if, like, in a luxury tax world, the Leafs could do their thing. They could continue doing what they do. And on the receipt, instead of gratuity, it's shut the fuck up. Here's the shut the fuck up payment where we do what we want and you shut the fuck up for a small fee. And maybe with this small fee, you could shut the fuck up and get good and do it yourself. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, and also think of the meme capital. If there's luxury tax, and the Leafs could start paying teams to beat them. Think of the jokes, everybody. You're cheering for this for the jokes. Imagine not having to rely on 2004 and 1967 jokes forever. You can say, you paid us to beat you.
The Senators get paid a $20 million payment from the equalization, and then they beat the Leafs in the playoffs. Imagine the jokes.
You helped us re-sign Connor Brown. Hilarious. Like, stuff like that. Stuff of that nature.
The Flyers, not only is Chuck Fletcher spending your money, but so are we.
Yeah. Like, hey, with the luxury tax, the Leafs pay Nikita Zaitsev anyway. You know? Things of that nature.
All right.
You know, if Phil Kessel sticks around with the Coyotes, guess what? He's still on payroll. You know, there's just, why aren't we doing this? Let us pay you.
I forget who made this point. I think it was a couple of years ago who originally made this point, but the way NHL franchises are run is so the opposite of way every regular business is run, because there are regulations in place that are limiting these businesses from becoming bigger businesses and expanding their market size and being better businesses and making more profits. So they're in normal business world, if you wanted to spend more money in advertising because that'll get you more sales, you can just spend as much advertising dollars as you wanted to get more sales. But in the NHL, they're not allowing you to spend more money on players so you can have a better business and get more profits. They're just limiting these guys from running their teams to the maximum ability of the team for no reason.
Yep.
Other than competitive balance, which I don't think it works at all.
No,
anyways.
I mean, listen, the bad teams are still poorly run.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to keep banging that drum. Now, we do have to get to the press conference here.
One thing on your original note on the Blackhawks search, Jamie Faulkner, her husband, Colin Faulkner, works as an executive at the Cubs. So, and Jamie Faulkner is the president of business operations, and her husband is an executive with the Cubs. So, and he said one of the candidates there is a Cubs executive. So that's where that connection, John Greenberg. So that's where that connection comes in. She probably knows him very well, and then had him out as a candidate there.
I would love to see that happen just for the chaos of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of qualified people who don't get a shot in hockey. So I'd like to see them get a shot.
Non-hockey person moving over to hockey.
But I think that's cool too. That's cool too. So, just open it up, please. All right, let's do the press conference. All right, we ready?
Yeah.
I have an Adams History Corner here quickly.
Oh, go ahead.
We're talking about...
I got an Adams History Corner shirt.
Wearing the shirt. I love it. I love it.
Finally got one. It's actually, it's a wonderful fit.
Adams History Corner University, which is hilarious because I only went to 2 semesters. How funny is that?
But you too can attend school at Adams History Corner if you visit sdpnshop.ca and get your crew neck sweater.
I wanted today's profile to be a really fun one. It's a dark time in the world, and I thought that this one, with Black History Month, we have to remember that so much of it is like we don't call it Black Trauma Month, we call it Black History Month. Let's talk about the successes. Let's talk about the people that we love. And I've tried to bring you people like Lonnie Johnson, like the Harlem Hellfighters that you just didn't know about. And then, Grant Fuhr was one where it's like, you knew about him, but did you know about Grant Fuhr and the Pepsi deal and all the other stuff? No, probably not. I didn't. This is going to be one that you know well, but nobody knows better than Steve Dangle. And that is one Jarome Iginla.
Oh, yeah.
Calgary Flames, all-time leader in goals, points, and games played. He's the first Black NHL player to win the Art Ross Trophy, the first one to win the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy, both in 2002. As a member of the Canadian men's national team in 2002 at the Winter Olympics, he also became the first Black man to win any gold medal at the Winter Olympics. Can you believe that?
At all?
That's what... as far as my research shows,
in hockey,
as far as I know, he became the first Black man to win any gold medal at the Winter Olympics.
For anyone?
That my understanding is that if I'm incorrect, then I sincerely apologize in advance because I couldn't believe that either.
And what year was that?
What's that?
2002.
2002.
Wow. And then this year, Sarah Nurse was the first Black woman to win gold medal in hockey. And that's 10 years, a decade later, 20 years later, it took for the first Black woman to win a gold medal in hockey. But that's unbelievable that it's the first Black man in general in any sport in the Olympics. Wow.
Now, okay. So what's interesting about this is that there's different thoughts on this. But yeah, Jarome Iginla, from what I understand, became the first Black man to win a gold medal at the Winter Olympics.
Shocking.
Yes.
And where is this from?
There's several different articles on the web. You can just Google it if you want to. But there are several sources that say it's Jarome Iginla. There are several, but it could be somebody bobsleigh. But there are several sources that say it's Jarome Iginla.
Okay. Sorry to grill you on
either way, it's 2002 Olympics. That's the first time it happened.
Wow.
So at the same games.
Yes.
Both those incidences. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy, guys. And wow. I whether or not he is the first is sort of immaterial. He's among the first.
Yeah.
Right. He's if he's not first, he's the second.
Yeah. Which is a sad realization, but also an accomplishment.
Yes.
Both fronts.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, the thing is, Jarome Iginla, I think summed up when he was playing everything that Canadians view about hockey. He can score 50 goals. He can punch your best player in the face in the Stanley Cup Finals. And he is also super quiet and likes to live in the mountains in the offseason. Like that's the Canadian, weirdly enough, that is for a lot of people, the Canadian dream. It's like, I don't have a cell phone and I'm going to live in the mountains and you'll never see me again, except for the occasional award ceremony.
That was one of the things I remember working with Nike is, hey, we got to get these things done with him before a certain date, because then we won't be able to find him. Like if we don't get these things done before the off season, we're just going to lose contact with him for 3 months, and we're not going to be able to shoot these things and get these things done that we need to, because he just loves solitude.
He loves solitude. It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you go to Calgary, and having lived there, the effect that Jarome Iginla had on that city and its love for hockey, the 2004 run, everybody talks about the Red Mile still to this day, and how they were essentially, in my opinion, robbed of a Stanley Cup. They should have won that cup. That was the Calgary Flames Cup. Sorry, Tampa, your cups came later. Jarome Iginla helped out in the community. Jarome Iginla gave everything he could to the Calgary Flames. And obviously, we've teased Steve in the past about his absolute undying love for Jarome Iginla and whether or not retirement was foisted upon him or he chose it himself. But Jarome Iginla is one of the most special athletes that's ever come through the Canadian system. And I thought he deserved a little bit of a shout out. As we wind down Black History Month, we're going to have one more on Monday. But I wanted to, Steve, when you got to interview him, so I wanted to pull from your experience on this. When you step up, you have that microphone, you stepped in front of that camera, you're like 20, 22, 21, 22?
I was 21.
And you got to talk to Jarome for the first time. Can you tell me about that moment?
That was a big day. Those Nike interviews were long and torturous. They weren't regular sports interviews, which are, 5 minutes max. Like these things were 20 minutes. At least. And I'm standing there dumpy and as a student and probably hungover and, talking to them about like nutrition and fitness and stuff like that. That day I had spoken to Jillian Apps, Jana Hefford, and Jennifer Botterill. And Jarome Iginla was the last interview of the bunch, if I remember correct. And I knew he was coming in, and I'm 21. I've done a bunch of interviews, not many of them in person. I did a lot of phone interviews in junior, but most of those were over the phone. And I just remember psyching myself up. I'm still in university, and I'm psyching myself up like, all right, come on, big boy pants. It's Jarome Iginla, but you're not going to get starstruck. This is just another day. It's another. It doesn't matter. This isn't going to phase you because you're a professional. They're paying you to be here because you're good at what you do. Right. And the second Jarome Iginla walks in the building or walks into the room, it was the way Charlie Murphy describes the first time he saw Rick James, like just the aura around him, the orange aura, and immediately all professionalism leaves me. And I'm just like, oh my God, that's Jarome Iginla. Like I actually, despite psyching myself up, I was still like weak in the legs. I can't believe I'm meeting this guy. I shake his hand. He engulfs it. And just so nice. Just a smile that lights up the room. Had time for everyone. He signed a jersey of mine, and I got in trouble for it, and I still have the jersey, so worth it.
You're not allowed to ask them to sign things for you.
And I made an executive decision in that moment that I didn't care, and I'm glad. Because he's just a wonderful guy. Took pictures with everyone, so kind to everyone. Was willing to laugh at himself. One of the things I remember about that is, so he had to change into Nike stuff because he had just got in from, it was either Flames morning skate or Flames practice. And he had to put on these shoes, and but he was wearing these powder blue socks with, I think, like flowers and snowflakes on them. And we were like, where did you even get these? And I believe they were a Christmas gift from like someone in his family, like an aunt or something like that. So he wore Christmas gift socks to a Nike shoot. And people were like, I think they had accounted on, okay, yeah, we got to change him into different shoes, but I don't think they had extra socks.
Right.
So they were like, yeah, I think they were like, I guess, yeah, like just go barefoot or something. But there's a pair of shoes that was left behind at the shoot. Oh, Adam's frozen. Oh, there he is. There are a pair of shoes that
I'm back.
That were left behind at the shoot, and we didn't know whose they were. So I grabbed them and kept them, and I choose to believe that I have Jarome Iginla shoes. They're probably not, because they're too small for me. They're probably just other shoes.
You stole somebody's shoes.
Stole someone's shoes.
Oh, Nike, dude, I miss working for them, man. They were the best. Like, there was this one dude who every time I went to Nike headquarters, he would see me and he would just be like, "Oh, what size are you?" Like he was looking for me. Like, he said, "What size are you?" And I'd be like, large in pants and I don't know, shoes. I'm like 11 and a half. And and I would go home with like $500 worth of shit. Like, oh man, I miss them. Come back.
In any of those instances, did you also steal somebody's shoes?
No, I simply was given them.
Oh, okay. So you didn't pickpocket shoes. Okay,
when I went to, we're getting away from Jarome Iginla here, but the World Juniors, I had my parents' blue suede suitcase that they brought to their honeymoon in 1985. And someone from Nike saw that and they were just like, you work for us now. You can't be seen with this. So we'll get you some stuff. Oh, and they ended up getting me like a bunch of bags. But the guy was just funny. Like, what is this? What is it? Literally just this blue. I got to find a picture of the suitcase, but my parents brought it to Quebec City in 1985. And I brought it to Regina, Saskatchewan in December 2009.
Wow. I need a picture of that, Steve.
Dude, I was broke. I didn't have any money.
I need a picture of that thing. I feel like I know what it looks like. It's like a bigger size leather briefcase that's blue.
It's like leather. It's terrible. But anyway, all that to say, Jarome Iginla, my favorite non-Leaf of all time, and meeting him was a dream. I was fortunate enough to do it twice. When he came to town with the Colorado Avalanche later in his career. I remember him talking about, because Jaromir Jagr was a big story at the time, and are you going to play forever too? And he was basically like, no, I have kids. Really friendly to everyone. I've never heard a bad Jarome Iginla story. Hard-nosed player, great family man. I mean, who's got a bad thing to say about Jarome Iginla? Not even Oilers fans have a bad thing to say about Jarome Iginla because they're like, yeah, but he's from Edmonton. Played for the Flames, but he's from Edmonton, so he's ours again. He's retired, so he's ours again.
I like that a lot. Okay, with that, Jesse, do we have any questions we want to get to in the press conference before we wrap it up for the week?
Two quick questions.
Let's go.
So, Adam, this one's from Boomtown and for you. Okay. Can we get Adam's ranking on what the most spiciest cereal is?
The spiciest cereal?
If you don't know what we're referencing, during one of our new advertisements for Magic Spoon that's running this week, Adam said that he gets heartburn from cereal and that cereal is really spicy. So, Adam,
I didn't say it was spicy. I just sometimes get heartburn.
Can you back up this ridiculous, dumb take that cereal is spicy and gives you heartburn?
Yeah.
Tell us about habanero honeycomb.
So it does, but I won't get into that. But if you want spicy cereal, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, spicy, so cinnamony and spicy.
I gotta
Cinnamon
kick you
Toast
through
Crunch.
the computer. Oh my god!
It does give me heartburn.
Chorizo Cheerios.
Yeah, guys, more than spicy stuff gives you heartburn. You know that, right?
I don't know if it's cereal though.
It does. You guys are wrong. You're wrong. Also, I can't eat Cheerios anymore because they make me toot. It's ridiculous. You know that?
I'm telling you. Like, no. What's the matter?
Go get your stomach fixed.
No, it's fine. Oh, it's all fine.
Yeah, Adam, call your doctor and say cereal is spicy. They'll tell you to go to the ER right away. We live in Canada. It's free. Go. Like, get out of here. Stop recording, pack up your shit, and go to the doctor.
All right, next question.
Next question. So, Steve, this is something you mentioned briefly on a previous podcast. I think we all talked about it. But you went back and did the research on this question. So this was I am a coupon on our Discord server. If you're not a member of our Discord, go to svn.ca to join our Discord. They wanted to know about a player playing more than 82 games. So we were talking about how it's been done. And we've referenced a couple instances where guys have played 84, 85 games because they've been traded to a team mid-season. That second team they get traded to has more games left than their previous team, so they end up playing 84 games in a year. But you were looking at some of the records and who has a chance to beat it this year and get into like the 90s if that were to happen.
Yeah, so there were some scenarios. So I made a TikTok about a week ago with all this information. So there's been updates, and I don't know exactly how it works. But there are trade scenarios with a few of the teams who have played the most games, and most notably the New York Islanders and the Minnesota Wild, because they've played so many fewer games than everybody else. There are scenarios out there where players could break the record. Which is 86 games in a season, and they could play as many.
Held by who?
Bob Kudelski and Joe. Is it John Cullen?
I'm asking you.
Ah, shit. Let me.
Here, you tell the story. I'll look it up.
Yeah, sorry, man.
All good.
Yeah. Anyway, it's two guys who hold the record for 86. So there's actually a couple answers for who owns the record if you want to get picky about it. So there used to be 84 games in a season. These two players got traded during those 84 game seasons. They played a couple extra games, so they played 86. The non-84 game season record, I believe, is held by Bill Guerin, who in an 82 game season played 85.
So you are correct about that. Bill Guerin has played 85 games. Bob Kudelski played 86. And number one, also at 86, Jimmy Carson.
Jimmy Carson.
Yes.
I got JC correct. So this year, there still exist a number of scenarios where they could tie the record, they could beat the record, or at very least play over 82. Eric Stahl, I think, was the most recent player to play over 82. There might have been some players who played more than the maximum amount of games over the last couple years, but they were shortened seasons, remember? So they were still nowhere close to the record. But most notably with the New York Islanders, if a player was traded from the Islanders, if a player was traded from one of the teams who have played the most games so far, like a Detroit, to the Islanders, they could hypothetically play well into the 80s. Like we're talking 84, 85, 86, 87 games.
Wow.
And 87 would be the new record.
Crazy. All right, well, there you go. It's the Steve Dangle Podcast for this week. We will be back Monday with more stuff. I don't even know. It's going to be a crazy weekend. Who do the Leafs even play tomorrow?
Right?
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
There you go. Anyway, so enjoy. We hope you have a great weekend. Jesse, enjoy Vegas. I want some stories when you get back, though.
Yeah.
Oh, there'll be some stories.
Beautiful. We'll be back in studio on Monday.
The Steve Dangle Podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Steve_Dangle, at Adam WYLDE, and at Jesse Blake. Connection complete.